Good morning and welcome to another fantasy football live stream. I am your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. Here to help me and help you get set for week 5. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Good morning, Kyle. What a whirlwind these last 2 days have been with multiple reschedulings and now a cancellation and so many guys that are hurt. Like, this is probably one of the most barren weeks of fantasy lineups that I've seen in a long time because of all of this.
Yep. And I'll post a little thing on the bottom for the people joining us as they hop on live. But the Broncos and the Patriots game has officially been canceled. I guess we can, there's a lot to get into. Obviously, we'll catch up on some injuries, some inactives, some surprise actives. Obviously, if you have questions, don't hesitate to drop them in the chat. We will address them as they come in. But obviously, the Broncos and the Patriots has officially been canceled. It's moved till next week. The NFL is going to have a lot of fun over the next month or so, rescheduling all these games and getting them all together. My Titans just can't figure it out. They got another positive COVID test. Everything in my head is saying that game is not happening this week. If you have pieces of either of those teams, well, what are we doing?
Well, I mean, if I'm like in a league where my commissioner has said that they're running that like alternative kind of thing, kind of like that I am, and if you have like a Josh Allen or a Derrick Henry, yeah, you're keeping them in your lineup and you're just designated somebody who's an alternative. But I mean, if you have anybody less than that, maybe a Stephon Diggs, but if you have like an AJ Brown or John Brown or like a Cole Beasley, like I'm putting in different players because the likelihood of that game going off is starting to seem more and more bleak with the cancellation of the Patriots game and the NFL finally taking more of a conservative stance on this.
Yeah.
So I'm not really willing to take the risk. And we were just talking pre-show about Scott Fishbowl, where I have Josh Allen. And, in that league where running for quarterbacks, like in most leagues, you get so many more points. I'm going to substitute Kyle Allen instead of Josh Allen this week, I cannot afford to take the negative points because there is no substituting in that league.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I think Josh Allen might be the only scenario that I'm even considering, and at that point, like I can pull up some names that we could be potentially starting to give some people some names. But yeah, I think if you obviously if you have two players, they're relatively close, and you're trying to figure out who to start. One of them's gonna play this week. One of them might not play this week. Obviously, start the healthy one or the one that's playing. Yeah, but I mean, like I have Devin Singletary in a few leagues. I'm sitting him. Stephon Diggs I think is another name where at least with there's only 4 teams on bye, so now we have 6. Now potentially 8, but yeah, I'm avoiding that situation as much as possible. Now, if you're sitting there looking at your team and like, Kyle Allen is the best thing you can put in besides Josh Allen, then maybe I'm willing to take the risk that Josh Allen plays. But at this point, I don't expect anyone to play.
Yeah, no, I don't expect anybody on that Tuesday. I don't expect that game to kick off on Tuesday.
No, because it's like at some point the Titans can't keep having positive tests. If they just had no positive tests, I'd feel great about it right now. But unfortunately, at this point, we have Carson Wentz at Pittsburgh. We don't. We've talked about.
I'm not touching that.
We don't love that, but it's interesting. Teddy Bridgewater at Atlanta, rostered in about half of Yahoo leagues, widely available. Gardner Minshew at Houston, Justin Herbert at New Orleans, Baker versus Indy, Jimmy G's return. Like I would start all these guys over Josh Allen with the uncertainty.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that you have to establish your own risk kind of level and what you're willing to risk
Yeah.
if he's going to play or not. And on that note, and going back to that New Orleans game, we have our first question here about Michael Thomas.
Yep.
He's a guy like I would go right now and see if there's another New Orleans pass catcher on free agency or even like a Jalen Guyton for the Chargers, because more likely than not, both Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are both taken. But say Mike Williams doesn't play, the Chargers are going to have to throw the ball in this game, and Guyton showed his elite speed last week, and he'd be a great dart throw in replacement of Michael Thomas. But as of now, like I'm willing to take the risk on Thomas's talent. It's a little bit different with an injury.
I'm not expecting him to play. That is my assumption. That being said, if you can have Emmanuel Sanders, Traquan Smith, Jalen Guyton, something that if you're fine playing these guys, if for some reason Thomas doesn't play, then go with it. If you have a Hollywood Brown, if you have a Jarvis Landry, if you have, I mean, even as much as Brandon Cooks has frustrated me, someone like him, like I feel like if you have that potential to play somebody that could have a big game, I'd probably lean that way. But yeah, if you can,
yes,
DJ Chark for sure. I think DJ Chark has a monster week again this week. So, in fact, I'm playing him in a few leagues.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue into that Jacksonville-Houston game, because I really think that this is the game where, it's not really the most talked about game on the slate this week, but it could wind up being possibly the best game of the week, with Houston struggles on defense, with Houston, getting rid of Bob over there. Like I think this offense sees a little bit of an uptick in efficiency, like we stated on our Best Bet show, where I love Houston against the line. I like the Jaguars offense in this game, especially if it's a PPR league. I love like Chenault, Chark, and of course James Robinson. Like, holy crap, that guy has totally exceeded all expectations on my behalf. Like, I apologize for doubting him at all. And then to Brandon Cooks, if he's out there, if somebody dropped him, especially in a PPR league, there's no way that he's going to have another bagel in a game where he played 94% of the snaps and he only saw 3 targets. Like, what do you think is more likely to happen in an offense like this, which is throwing the ball upwards of 35, 40 times a game, for him to get 3 targets, or for him to kind of come back to the mean and see about 8 to 7 and get 4 or 5 catches a week? And we all know how injury prone Will Fuller is, and then he immediately catapults into the wide receiver 1 there.
Speaking of the Jaguars game, Gardner Minshew, fantasy finishes by week: quarterback 12, quarterback 9, quarterback 29, quarterback 10. The 1 week where he was outside the top 12, no DJ Chark. DJ Chark's back this week. Gardner Minshew makes for a great streaming option against a
Okay, so, and real quick, before we even get out of that game again, CJ Henderson for the Jaguars is out this week, which even increases the likelihood that a guy like Brandon Cooks is going to go off.
What are we doing with Scary Terry? I have McLaurin in a couple leagues. Obviously, they made the switch to Kyle Allen. They're facing a Rams team where they can put Jalen Ramsey on him and slow him down, but he's still been able to, even though he's quote unquote the only guy, have these monster games. Do we still keep rolling with him, or now that they made the switch, or are you a little less optimistic about what his potential may look like? Where are you at with McLaurin?
So slightly biased, as I wrote McLaurin as kind of a ride the pine guy in my article this week, Time to Shine, Ride the Pine, on fakepigskin.com. But that being said, I don't see Jalen Ramsey following him all over the field. Mm-hmm. I do think with them going away from Haskins into Kyle Allen, something that they've been talking about really heavily this week is the fact that Allen is super familiar with Scott Turner's offense as they ran it in Carolina. Mm-hmm. I think you're going to see them move McLaurin around the formation a ton. This is going to be a game where I really think they're going to funnel the offense through him and Antonio Gibson. And I think Gibson kind of takes that next leap into kind of every down role status for Washington this week. I'm not expecting a huge game from McLaurin, just knowing that Ramsey is out there. But if he's on your roster, there's not many options that are better than him in an offense where he is the alpha in that passing game. And Kyle Allen showed last year that he can support wide receiver success. And, it's going to be a lot of short passes, and McLaurin has shown the ability to turn the Jets on and just run past everyone. So, yeah, I'm not.
So you're starting him over Will Fuller? Because as much as I hate Will Fuller, I think I'm starting.
I think I'd go in Fuller in that.
I feel much better about him, and I think each guy has the opportunity. As much as I love Terry McLaurin, as much as I love what he can be, I think Will Fuller's probably the answer, which it really pains me to the core. But
well, the fact that it's between Fuller and McLaurin at flex must mean that there are two crazy good guys at the starting wide receiver positions. I mean, that's a great spot to be in right there.
Yeah, that's exactly where you want to be. Julio Jones is also out this week. That's kind of what I was expecting, so I'm not super shocked, but
I mean, everyone's talking about that whatever Zacharias guy, but
we're back to Russell Gage, right? He's our guy again this week.
Well, that's what I don't understand is like people are completely forgetting about Russell Gage and the fact that Calvin Ridley still saw a ton of targets last week. They just couldn't connect. Like I do think this is the week he gets right and he blows up again.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Calvin Ridley has a monster performance here. I appreciate him taking the week off last week. I was able to lock up a couple fantasy wins because of it, but I'm 100% back to him being the guy again this week. Chark and Allen Robinson already played, and then Thomas is on his bench. Okay, cool.
Jesus, did anybody draft wide receivers in this league?
I don't know. I like where his roster's heading now.
McLaurin, Fuller, Chark, Robinson, and Michael Thomas. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's one hell of a receiving core. Brian, how are we feeling about the lines this week? Have you taken a look at some of our movement? I'm still all over Minnesota scoring at least 23.5 points tonight.
I've been kind of monitoring it over the last couple days. I've seen a little movement in the Houston game as I think it's actually gone down slightly into yesterday. It went down to 5.5 on a couple of the books that I was looking at. Right now it's currently sitting at 6, and it looks like more money's coming in on Houston early in the morning. It's interesting to see the LA Rams at Washington football team line has went down from around 9 to now 7.5. So I feel like I almost feel like people are overvaluing the change at quarterback here, and they're thinking that this offense is going to be much different than it previously was.
I feel like they saw the game last week against the Giants, and they think we see another ugly, sloppy game where they're traveling to the East Coast, and they just do enough to get the win, but Washington maybe keeps it just inside a touchdown. I wouldn't touch that.
No,
We've seen the Rams go East Coast 3 times now or 2 times now and put up over 40 points in both those games. So they're clearly comfortable going over there, and I'm a little dubious. Like we were talking, on Thursday about the team total for Washington under 18.5. I stayed away from it. I feel like it's probably the right side, but I could see Washington scoring like 23 or 24 in like a 37-23 type game.
Whoa. See, I don't see that at all. As good as let me just say this. So as much as we think that there is going to be a slight difference in offensive scheme with Kyle Allen, and his familiarity is really going to help them, and probably decision making is slightly better than Haskins in this particular offense.
Mm-hmm.
With Jalen Ramsey back there, covering McLaurin a lot when he's lined up on the outside, it's going to take multiple boom plays for them to kind of get into the end zone. And I just think that they're going to have major difficulties once they get into the red zone. And I think they're either going to be settling for a lot of field goals, or they're going to be, turning it over on downs, multiple times throughout this game, as the Rams will probably be able to kind of milk the clock in this one.
Yeah. No, I think that's completely fair, and like that, I could see, two. I think the gate goes either two ways. I think it goes what we saw last week against the Giants, which is a slow, methodical game. Nobody really scores a ton of points, or it's like what we saw a couple weeks ago against the Bills, where they both put up a ton of points. I'm a little more optimistic in the slower methodical, but I have concerns that maybe Washington scores 20 points instead of 18, and then you don't hit that. Yeah, there's been some interesting live movement. Obviously, people are on Miami. Apparently, the Niners are at 8.5 after that pathetic performance against the Eagles. Um,
I think that game is slowly, or could I say quickly, turning into one of my favorite smash plays. Is the Niners against the line with Jimmy G back, with the potential of Mostert returning, George Kittle's healthy, Debo and Brandon Ayuk are there. So this is going to be pretty much a full strength Niners offense. And this Miami defense is just not capable of stopping anybody right now. And the Niners have shown the ability to get up quick on people and then be able to put pressure on the quarterback, regardless of who's on that D line. So
yeah,
I'm starting to like that spread.
yeah. It's interesting to see the Browns now as favorites against the Colts. I feel like that could be something where the Colts end up winning like 31-13, and everybody's
I
like,
was gonna say, I think that's a trap right there.
Alex Smith is active for the first time. I just dropped him in a Superflex Dynasty League, so that you're welcome. I, like he's like gonna be around, but he's never really gonna be a like actual like he's never gonna play, right?
Well, I mean, why wouldn't they want to do that just to get eyeballs and attention? I mean, what's a better story than Alex Smith returning?
Yeah, I don't know. We're truly living in strange times. Alex Smith is coming back after having his legs shattered in half.
No kidding, man.
Let's see. Adam Schefter is tweeting out the actives and inactives. So far, so good. Nothing major outside of Julio. Yeah. We're Russell Gage. We're Calvin Ridley. We're Hayden Hurst. Zacharias is fine, but I don't know. The whole Scotty Miller situation on Thursday still has me not super excited.
Yeah, but we should both be extremely happy that Rojo once again that
What are we gonna do?
like they do not need Leonard Fournette.
Nope. And what's Keyshawn Vaughn didn't really get a lot of run. I don't know. It looks like there's a clear workhorse in Tampa Bay and in an offense that in games when they're up, games when they're close, still involved. It's really good to see.
Yeah, no, that was fantastic to see. Besides the fact that I had Keyshawn Vaughn in a PR league, which thankfully he got that bogus reception late in the game that gave him 0 instead of -1. So I'll proudly take my bagel because I was playing against Scotty Miller. So it's a 0 for 0. I'm good. I'm good with that.
I didn't like that guy. And then I said, okay, I'm in. I like him. It's a great opportunity this week. And what happens? Nothing. 0, goose egg, blank check.
What do we think about the Mike Evans thing where he's like the Jordan Howard of wide receivers right now, where every catch is short and for touchdowns? He's just not getting down the field.
If he's scoring touchdowns, all I care about. Like against the Chargers, he cut in a couple long bombs. I'm really curious to see what this offense looks like when Chris Godwin comes back and how the targets get distributed. Because obviously a lot went to Evans with Godwin out. Now Godwin's going to be back this week coming up. So I'm a little, and then I'm Scotty Miller obviously going to the back. Tyler Johnson popped up in a big way. This is a guy that I'm excited about from a dynasty perspective, but not necessarily the regular season 2020. So, Carson Wentz, Jimmy Garoppolo, or Joe Burrow?
I again I really think that Garoppolo is fully healthy, and I just think the matchup is so much better than either of these two other
Mhm.
guys. And they've shown that they want to get the ball to their running backs through the air a lot more this season. And with Kittle healthy, and like I had already said, Debo and both Ayuk out there, I like Garoppolo over those two guys.
Yeah, it would be Garoppolo for me too. I don't hate going to Joe Burrow because he's shown that you can trust him. Like he's getting 300-yard games. He's got a ton of weapons in Boyd and T Higgins and even AJ Green and Mixon
And this
and
is going to be probably a 40 to 45
yeah,
attempts
like this
game
has a
for
chance
the
to be a
Bengals.
really high scoring game. Carson Wentz is clearly the third guy, but yeah, I'm with you. I like Jimmy G this week. The fact that there's a little bit of money coming on Miami means this game should be a little closer. The return of George Kittle, who had like 16 targets last week.
He is a beast, dude.
He is so good.
It's
So good.
fantastic watching him play football.
Yeah,
That's all I gotta say.
he's really fun. But yeah, I would go. I would go Jimmy G in that situation. I think he offers both the safest floor and potentially highest upside.
Yeah, what's interesting about Garoppolo too, I've been setting a lot of DFS lineups today, and I really think that he's like one of those contrarian super sleeper picks, especially in that late slate when most people are going to be going with Dak or even Daniel Jones, just thinking that that game is going to be a huge shootout. Whereas Garoppolo, he could complete 16 passes and have 2 touchdowns that are 40 plus yards, and boom, he gets the same amount of points. And if you have Kittle in there, is likely to get maybe 8 to 10 receptions again. Like, he's a great sneaky play.
So this is a really good one. Greg Ward, T Higgins, or Golden Tate.
Man.
They're all incredibly interesting. I think T Higgins might be my favorite option. If it's full PPR, I may go with Golden Tate against your Cowboys.
Why do we always have to have the options of these particular guys who just absolutely destroy the Cowboys defense?
Well, I think in 2020, unfortunately, if you're a wide receiver, you have the ability to destroy the Cowboys defense. Because it is putrid. Greg Ward is somebody that I've actually been adding in a few leagues because as much as Travis Fulgham got the touchdown last week, I think Greg Ward's somebody who's going to be, especially in any form of PPR, going to be getting 5 to 7 targets, maybe more per week, at least until they figure out what's going on. The next couple of weeks, the Ravens and Pittsburgh are both pretty solid against opposing tight ends. So I don't think Zach Ertz goes off. I don't think, obviously no Dallas Goedert. They're going to Richard Rodgers. So I think
Rodgers.
I think Greg
hilarious.
Ward's going to be a sneaky start over the next couple weeks. But yeah, I think T Higgins will be T Higgins in half or regular. It's full PPR. I think the answer is Golden Tate. What do you think, Brian? T Higgins is so sexy, though.
I feel like the matchup is a smash play for the Giants, but the only thing I worry about in that game is what if Daniel Jones is just not able to, sit back there and be able to put the ball on target. And we've seen games where he's just so all over the place that he's not able to hit his receivers. Yeah. And the worry with Tate is even if it is a PPR, I think his ceiling is more so around like 6 to 7 catches, but with the yards capped at around like 50 or 60, whereas T Higgins is going to be playing in a game where he's already seen like upwards of 9 to 10 targets in the last 3 weeks each game. And they're probably going to be throwing the ball a ton with Marlon Humphrey and Jimmy Smith playing on the outside on AJ Green and Humphrey maybe shadowing Tyler Boyd. I really think this is a play where T Higgins could really show out even more than he already has and approach his first ever 100-yard game.
Yeah. I mean, and Joe Burrow's clearly, like, in terms of targets and volume, looking that way. Tate's probably the quote unquote saver option, more of a solid floor. But yeah, I think you're right. I think T Higgins is the answer. Okay, we are rolling through Sunday morning. Games are rapidly approaching, waiting for Adam Schefter to hit us with some dramatic news that somebody's going to be out and we're going to be running for the waiver wire.
He's going to hit us with the news that the Titans have canceled their season.
At this point, like, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm waiting to see what happens to them. I think some serious stuff's going to happen. I think they're going to be they're going to be paying for some stuff that they did or didn't do, but we'll see.
So to hit on a couple player props that I've noticed the last 2 days were something that I was kind of waiting for on Thursdays. Like, so when we record, a lot of the times the player props are not released yet. And one of my favorite things that I was anticipating was I wanted to see what the odds were going to be of Zeke scoring 2 touchdowns. And surprisingly, it's actually okay for what I was expecting. I think it's around plus 140 for 2 touchdowns, which it's, you don't ever really want to, think that somebody is guaranteed to score 2 touchdowns. But if there was ever a week, I think this is that's one of my favorite plays, is that Dallas is going to want to try to establish the running game a little bit more, which they haven't been able to do. And regardless of whether or not they're able to do that, Zeke has been so involved in the passing game, actually leading running backs this year in targets and routes run, that him scoring 2 touchdowns for me is a lock. I know it's crazy to go with, but
at plus 140, I would need at least 2.5 or 3 to 1 in order for me to even consider it.
I thought it was going to be closer to straight even money, to be honest with you, just kind of anticipating what this game is going to look like.
Has he scored 2 touchdowns in any game this season?
I think he has 1 game with 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just, this is an offense that's evolved so much into a passing game, and with Dalton Schultz becoming a thing, and big plays from CeeDee Lamb, Michael Gallup, Amari Cooper. They're not the same offense that gets in the red zone and chuggas all the way in. I think this is, I don't know.
Let's see.
Let me go to
week 1. He had 2 touchdowns.
FTN bets and see what the odds are across the board, because I think let's see, rushing to score a touchdown is so over on FanDuel it's plus 240. I would take that. BetMGM is plus 162 and DraftKings is minus 111. So that's quite a range.
DraftKings is minus 111 for him to score 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Wow.
Can you get 3 touchdowns? Because that I might be.
Yes, you can. So
FanDuel has it 11 to 1.
On Bovada, it's the same thing, 11 to 1.
See, I'd almost rather go to that. If I don't know, maybe 2 on the ground, 1 through via the pass.
That's getting crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'm a wild and crazy guy. What can I say? Receiving yards prop, I kind of like that. 29.5. It's either plus money or minus money, depending on where you look.
The only
32.5.
The only thing I worry about with Zeke receiving in this game is the majority of all 4 of the Cowboys games have seen them losing in every single game by multiple scores, which has forced them to get into more of that check it down to Zeke. Whereas, I'm gonna continue to ride this train until it actually hits. But I really think that this is the week where Dallas gets out to a lead and they kind of stay there. And I think for that reason, I also think that this is a Michael Gallup week, because you're going to see more chances by Dak with one-on-one situations with Gallup, not trying to force the ball into crazy situations because knowing he has to score. I could be completely off my rocker, but
I think you are. I really want Michael Gallup to happen.
I just want Michael Gallup to happen, damn it.
I don't think it's happening. I think CD is clearly past him and taken over as the clear number 2 there, and
it's sad.
Yeah, it's real sad. What else we got going on? Any other big stuff?
Well, like you said with that Browns and Colts game, I think it's interesting that the line has shifted so drastically from Indianapolis opening up as close to a 3-point favorite to now Cleveland going to a 1-point favorite. And I think it'll be telling to see the way that they kind of rotate their running backs, because as good as Kareem Hunt is, that D'Ernest Johnson guy is he's not Nick Chubb. So that 2-headed monster running game that we're accustomed to seeing there is more than likely not going to be as good.
No, I think it's 70, 30, 80, 20. I think he gets a handful of targets or touches, and depending on how the game's going, right? If they end up Cleveland ends up being up a lot, then maybe he gets like 7 touches. But yeah, they also got to keep Kareem Hunt, a guy who was banged up coming into last week, so they may do that as okay, every 2 out of every 3 touches goes to Johnson just to keep him healthy and avoid too much contact and whatnot.
Yeah, are there any plays that you think are like kind of under the radar this week?
I kind of like Chase Edmonds against the Jets. I don't know if the Kenyon Drake thing is going to happen. Like we ran into a couple supposed smash spots, and it hasn't happened this week against the Jets. Like we were talking I'm on the Cardinals team total under. So all right.
No.
So he has to play 3 in a full PPR. He's got Myles Gaskin, Joshua Kelly, Jerick McKinnon, Devonta Freeman, Raheem Mostert, and Darrell Henderson. So I don't think Mostert plays very much this week, if he plays at all. For me,
I think the number one option there is Devonta Freeman. I think that's ridiculous, but I just think yes, he's clearly the lead back in that offense. He already I think he saw 11 carries last week with 4 receptions. I mean, you're going to see 15 to 20 touches guaranteed out of Freeman against that porous Dallas defense, especially in a PPR league. Catches are important, and then I like McKinnon shortly after there, and then man,
Darrell Henderson's clearly one of the 3.
But
are they going to go with Malcolm Brown and?
Yeah, what the F are they doing in LA, that backfield now? And Cam Akers is healthy. I would almost prefer to take the chance with playing both 49ers guys. If Mostert is healthy, going up against the Dolphins, like I think there's a world where they both kind of see 10 to 12 touches and both can have touchdowns. Like we had a couple weeks ago.
We've seen Raheem Mostert in 2 games already that he's played that, he catches this like 7-yard in, and then 80 yards later he's dancing in the end zone. Yeah, Schefter's saying that they're both listed as him and Depot are both listed as questionable, but both should be good to play. Man, see,
I do understand your reservations though, because if we're thinking in terms of San Francisco getting up big, I mean, which is not what the public or the sharps are thinking as the line keeps shrinking. But if San Francisco gets up big, there's no reason for them to risk Mostert re-aggravating an injury. So.
I'm playing Darrell Henderson, I'm playing Joshua Kelly, and I'm playing Devonta Freeman.
Man. You're hating on the old man. Give me Devonta Freeman, Jerick McKinnon, and man.
Yeah. Because Gaskin could, if they could give him 12 targets in the passing game if this game gets lopsided. So he's interesting. But I think for me, Henderson and Kelly are locked in 1-2. Kelly, even though he doesn't traditionally look like a pass catcher, does get enough work in the passing game. And then the third option, Mostert obviously has the most upside if he plays and is healthy. Could score 2 touchdowns, could have 180 yards. So if you really want upside, that would be my play. If you want safety, Gaskin or McKinnon would be my locked in, 5 to 6 targets. Okay,
so
not kill you.
So that helped me answer. Okay, so Freeman, McKinnon, and Joshua Kelly as the 3 guys that I'm playing in that situation.
Yeah. Traquan with Michael Thomas probably not playing. Sammy Watkins, T. Higgins, or Golden Tate. I would not risk AJ Brown. I don't think that game is happening, and especially with the names you have. And here we go again, Brian. I think it's clearly T. Higgins or Golden Tate. Golden Tate has a safer floor if it's full PPR.
I'm going T. Higgins, man.
We're going T. Higgins over.
We're teeing off this week.
Yeah, I think he's consistently progressing in the right direction, becoming a legit factor early in his rookie year, and Joe Burrow clearly trusts him. So yeah, Higgins will be my guy for sure. Um, I even if Michael Thomas doesn't play, I don't love Traquan. He's obviously had the touchdown last week, so that helps. But and then Sammy Watkins is somebody that could go out in the first quarter after getting tackled and never see him again. So never feel good about him. But yeah, I think it's clearly T Higgins, and then Golden Tate would be my second if you're just wanting safety in a PPR league.
Yeah, and I really think that this Saints game is going to be very similar to what we saw 2 weeks ago, with both running backs being kind of the centerpieces of the offense, as the Chargers are really good on the outside. And I don't think that Traquan Smith would be able to put up another 4 for 90 in a touch game.
Yeah. That game is interesting to me. So the Chargers, I could see the Chargers Saints being 31-27.
Come on.
Hayden Hurst, Evan Ingram. You got
that is a good question.
Let me look at something.
So I did hear this morning that Evan Ingram has ran the third most routes from the tight end position this season.
Okay.
And the Dallas Cowboys are just absolutely – they cannot defend anybody, especially tight ends, with Jalen Smith, who looks like he's chopping his feet doing a shuffle drill rather than actually sprinting after people.
What happened there? He used to be like in a legit legit linebacker. Is it just
I feel like his deficiencies were hidden by the ability of the defensive line to create pressure and or prevent people from getting into the second level. And this year they're not able to do that, and people are just running straight past him. So that being said, I love the quarterback for the Falcons, and without Julio Jones, I do think that you see a little more Hayden Hurst involved in an offense, especially in a game where the over-under, I think, is like 55 now. And I think Hurst,
Evan Ingram is the answer. I think
Hurst is safer, but Ingram has the ability to go off for 100+ yards.
Yeah, I mean, if the Giants' offense is anything respectable, they will have a nice performance here, and Golden Tate will look good, and Darius Slayton might catch a touchdown. Devonta Freeman will be involved. There's potential for them to score between 27 and 30 points this week. That being said, based upon the first few weeks, that offense hasn't been great. But Evan Ingram may just get pelted with targets, and it may not matter. So Ingram would be my play. We do love Hayden Hurst here, but I think because of the matchup and a little more safety in terms of the targets, Matt Ryan, we should legitimately talk about him, because he is somebody that I was super excited about, somebody that I was all on board with, somebody I drafted in a few leagues, which I never draft quarterbacks that early, and maybe I need to learn. But he has just been underwhelming, looks bad, looks uncomfortable in the pocket. Maybe it's an offensive line thing, maybe it's poor coaching, maybe it's a combination. But if we're rostering Matt Ryan, should we be considering a Ryan Tannehill or a Gardner Minshew or a something, at least as a bench piece, so that way if things keep going from bad to worse, that we're making the swap?
I mean, I would definitely start looking at potential backup plans, but when you look at Ryan's statistics, the last 2 weeks he's played. I know the Packers defense isn't great, but always going up to Lambeau is a difficult situation. Mm-hmm. There was Julio Jones departed early. Calvin Ridley entered the game kind of banged up. I mean, Russell Gage, I don't know what the hell happened there. And then the week before that against the Bears have a good defense, as we saw this last Thursday against Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
So I think that there are better days ahead, and especially the next 2 weeks, he's getting Carolina and Minnesota, who are both ridiculously bad against the pass, and then he goes up against Detroit. So I really think that you're not going to want to be on the wrong side of the positive regression of Matt Ryan. I would just have a backup plan just in case.
So a question that, coming into the season, I never thought I would be answering the way I am. DJ Chark or Robbie Anderson? I think it's clearly Robbie Anderson, as much as I love DJ Chark. This matchup versus Atlanta, he's a guy that's getting bombarded with targets. Like there's almost no like issues with him. Like he's getting the volume. He's in a great matchup. Teddy Bridgewater is looking his way constantly. He got 8, 10, 5, and 11 targets his last 4 games. 3 games of basically 100 yards or more, 99, 109, 114. As much as I love what DJ Chark can do, and I do like the matchup there, I think Robbie Anderson is the play.
Yeah, much to the chagrin of me and you about Curtis Samuel, it's Robbie Anderson who is the other guy there in Carolina, and with the amount of times that they're throwing the ball, and with the kind of
I think
depth
he's
of
the guy. I think DJ Moore and Curtis Samuel are fighting for the other guy.
I just feel like Robbie Anderson has turned into that kind of safety net for Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, he's seen like 9, 10 catches and it almost consistently. And in this matchup against this Falcons defense, who is down, pretty much all of their starting defensive backfield. Yeah, you have to go with Robbie Anderson this week.
Pick one in full PPR: Kenyon Drake, Raheem Mostert, Antonio Gibson.
Kenyon Drake, Raheem Mostert, Antonio Gibson. I'm going Antonio Gibson. I think this is the week where he sees basically he gets propelled into the 3-down role for Washington with Kyle Allen back there. And let's also not forget that Kyle Allen helped propel Christian McCaffrey to his ridiculous receiving year last year, just absolutely pelting him with targets. And I think we're going to see a lot of that with this Washington football team going forward with Allen at the helm.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on with Kenyon Drake. I just, like I was saying with Chase Edmonds, I think he might be interesting. I don't love this matchup. There's been a couple running backs, like Raheem Mostert had 92 yards, and the Niners had a big win. Melvin Gordon had a huge game last week, but I think that was because of Brett Rippon. Most of the other games, it hasn't been a lot from the running game. I think Antonio Gibson's right. Like Raheem Mostert, if you're looking for like a big upside where he could take his 10 to 12 touches and score 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but you also have to be willing to kind of have some risk with him getting, 3 to 5 touches, because Debo, quote unquote, was active and played last week, but was basically not a factor in that game at all. I could see them doing a very similar thing with Mostert. And if that game gets sideways, they're not going to risk playing him. So there's a lot more risk there.
Yeah. So this next question we got.
Yes, I would play Antonio Gibson over Miles Sanders. That's
ridiculous that we've reached this point, but that's how bad Philly's offense has been.
This week and next week, I'm looking for other options. If I'm not playing Jeff Wilson over him. I'm not playing like J.K. Dobbins over him. But if you have legit options like a Raheem Mostert, like a Antonio Gibson, like top 25-ish guys, top 30-ish guys in decent matchups, I'm worried about Miles Sanders the next 2 weeks. Like I could see him having less than 100 yards combined in the next 2 weeks. I think I have him in a couple leagues, and I'm playing him just because my other options, like between bye weeks and COVID and injuries, like it's just there's nothing that I would even feel like somewhat good about. But yeah, Antonio Gibson, I would play over Miles Sanders.
Yeah, and then before we get off of Sanders real quick, as the owner of Miles Sanders, decline every single trade offer that's going to be coming your way, because for me, he is one of my favorite buy lows right now.
I'm trading for him in 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah. The next 2 weeks are going to be horrible. I mean, but the usage is going to be there, and people are going to just see the production, and they're going to get frustrated, and they're going to want to dump him. But then after that, once all the pieces start to come back, you're going to get Goddard back, you're going to get Jeffrey back, you're going to get Deshaun Jackson back.
You're going to get Lane Johnson back. Hopefully the offensive line comes.
They get to play the Cowboys twice.
Yeah. Things are going to get better for Miles Sanders. He's a guy, like I said, I'm trading for in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Full PPR. DJ Chark, Le'Veon Bell, Jonnu Smith. Jonnu's out. I don't expect that.
And, I'm not playing.
Especially compared to the other two. Okay, so do we go with safety and Le'Veon, or do we just say, play DJ Chark, 7 to 10 targets, hopefully?
I like the matchup with with Chark. As much as I like Le'Veon and I roster him in a couple leagues, and I do think that he gets back into that starting role, I am worried about them, slowly integrating him back into the offense, kind of sharing with both Frank Gore and LaMichael Pirine this week. So I'd go with the safer option in DJ Chark.
And as I mentioned, like Gardner Minshew, is the 3 weeks that he has DJ Chark was much better than the week he didn't have DJ Chark. So he clearly looks for him, clearly leans on him, and is an interesting guy. As we mentioned, we like T. Higgins better than DJ Chark, but both guys are incredibly compelling as like top 20-ish options this week. All right, Brian. I think we're rocking and rolling. I think any other major stuff coming down the pipe, or should we call it a day?
Yeah, I don't think there's been any other ground-shaking news this morning. Thank goodness.
Yeah, we got enough to worry about. Yeah,
I just hope that they get that game in on Tuesday.
I'm not optimistic about it. I would plan on it not happening and that the Bills play on Thursday, but
yes, I would definitely find an alternative for Jonnu and not play him, because even if Jonnu plays, let's remember that they're going to be without Adam Humphries, Corey Davis, and the AJ Brown still may not be active. And then who the hell is going to be out there other than Jonnu Smith for the Bills defense to just sit there and shadow the entire game and double cover?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what's available, Jimmy. Like you know what other options you have. But if there's anybody that you feel good about, I would definitely, like, if we're talking about like a Travis Kelce, like I might be a little more willing to risk it. But with Jonnu already kind of being in that, like, has the ability to pop, but not necessarily a lock week to week, bucket anyways. I would play him. Oh, here's an interesting one.
That's a good question.
Zach Moss or Dearness Johnson? I think I'm playing Dearness Johnson.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going with the guy with the safer play.
Yeah, like Zach Moss. Like I'm already not you're a much bigger Zach Moss fan than I am in general, but I'm not optimistic about that game. That between the Titans, they had another COVID case. They're shut down the facility. I would play Tyler Higbee. Absolutely.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. Don't be scared off by his lack of production last week. That's kind of game flow dependent. The dude is still the number one tight end there. I know Gerald Everett returned, but Higbee and Jared Goff have a really good rapport, and it should return this week.
Yep, and Washington has allowed the 5th most fantasy points to opposing tight ends, including Dallas Goedert's 100 yards. They've allowed 5 touchdowns through 4 weeks to the position. So, he should have a really solid game today against Washington. But yeah, I think Dearness Johnson's the play, as scary as it is. I don't see that game happening with the Titans stuff and the facility being shut down and all that stuff.
Okay, let's get one more in here. Should I play at my flex Joshua Kelly, T. Higgins, or Olamide Zacchaeus? I'm assuming.
Josh Kelly has the built-in volume
touches.
And he was already. See, the thing about him is he was already a guy that was getting work with Austin Eckler. So now that Austin Eckler's out, I still think Justin Jackson gets a little bit of work. But I think Josh Kelly gets a ton of volume. The Saints are, I don't know, they're a mixed bag. They haven't really been tremendous against opposing running backs, but they haven't been horrible. They've been hit in the passing game a little bit, but both of those came on the road. I think T. Higgins is the play.
Man, I think it would depend. If it's anything less than full PPR, I'd probably go with the running back in that situation, because it's your flex play. Like, you kind of want, I know you want the upside, but it's also a safe kind of floor. But if it is full PPR, I'm pulling my driver out and we're teeing off with Mr. Higgins there again.
Yeah, no, I think it's clearly those two guys. I think T. Higgins has more upside. I think Josh Kelly. I don't know what to make of the Chargers offense quite yet in terms of, like, we've seen them go to Tampa Bay and look amazing. We've seen them go to Carolina and look horrendous. We've seen,
Screw that game.
Anthony Lynn finally came out and said, "Oh yeah, Justin Herbert is my guy." So I feel better about that offense kind of in general. And, Keenan Allen's been a monster, but yeah. So my Josh Kelly, once again, Myles Gaskin or Laviska Shenault. I think Josh Kelly is the answer, as much as I like what Laviska's doing and his potential kind of down the road.
Yeah, I like Kelly.
Oh, T. Higgins, Chase Edmonds, Greg Ward. T. Higgins, right?
T. Higgins.
We are the official T. Higgins podcast. Apparently, we need to don T. Higgins jerseys next week. Yeah, we're all in on him this week. I think he has a monster game, which, and I think there's Joe Burrow has a connection with him. I think he sees plenty of work and has a really nice performance here. So yeah, T. Higgins over Chase Edmonds over Greg Ward. Like, I think both those guys are somewhat interesting. Greg Ward's probably got a little safer in PPR, but yeah, I think T. Higgins is a clear tier above the other two guys.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm a little worried about Joe Mixon. I'm not gonna lie. Thanks, Daryl. Thanks for joining.
Yes,
thanks for checking us out. We are here multiple times a week and every Sunday morning. So if you want to drop by and hit us with some questions, we're always here. As for Joe Mixon this week, man, he's been a rough watch. Obviously broke out in a big way last week. Baltimore isn't exactly a easy team to run the ball against. I think their offense gets going, so they probably have to throw a little bit more.
It's a tough play. I mean, you're probably not going to have very many better options than Joe Mixon, and knowing that, we kind of saw them utilize him as the 3-down guy and kind of funnel the offense through him last week, which opened up the passing game slightly. I think there's a world where we see them try to establish the run early and get Mixon the ball in space a little bit more going forward. Mm-hmm. So unless you have there's really not very many people that I'm playing.
He's still a top 12-ish option.
Yeah.
Especially with, between the injuries and with COVID and the bye weeks, like he's probably like a top 7-10 guy, even in a not so great matchup.
Yeah. And even if they get their butts kicked, like I still think he has a good chance of scoring a touchdown this week.
He does have locked in volume, even if it's not incredibly productive in every matchup. This is a very interesting question. Joe Burrow or Drew Brees?
I got to go Drew Brees at home, man, with the potential of Michael Thomas returning. And when they play at home, Drew Brees is just so efficient getting the ball to Alvin Kamara. He's always almost can break a big play on any play of the game. Drew Brees is fantastic in New Orleans. This Chargers defense is really good, but if Michael Thomas returns, they're going to be at full strength with Thomas, Sanders, Jared Cook, Traquan Smith, Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray, and Drew Brees always shows out in primetime games.
I might go Joe Burrow.
I think the risk of turnovers is less here. With Drew Brees.
I worry that as good as he is in the dome, that this is an offense that leans so heavily on the running game that it's a lot of Kamara and Latavius, especially if Michael Thomas doesn't play, and he has like 212 yards and like one touchdown. Daryl has Justin Herbert, Gardner Minshew, or Kirk Cousins. As much as I think Kirk Cousins is the answer here.
Man, it's so hard to trust Kirk Cousins though in those primetime spots.
Kirk Cousins he's in the perfect option. We talked about our concern earlier about if Dalvin can't get established, how much does that impact him? We talked about Minshew. Minshew is a guy who's been a top 12 guy in the 3 weeks he's had DJ Chark. DJ Chark is playing this week in a good matchup against Houston, a team that Kirk Cousins threw all over last week. So if not Cousins, then do you want to go with Minshew?
I'd probably lean Minshew. I mean, I do like the Minnesota matchup, just like you, as Seattle is the worst team in the NFL in defending the pass, and they've got Justin Jefferson there, and he looks like every bit the part as to why they drafted him. But Minshew's rushing upside is so much better than what Kirk Cousins can offer as far as like a ceiling. So I think Minshew's ceiling is slightly better than what Kirk Cousins is.
So let me just read you some numbers. 450 yards, 397 yards, 472 yards, and 315 yards. That's the amount of passing yards the Seattle defense has allowed to opposing passers. And those quarterbacks are Matt Ryan, Cam Newton, Dak Prescott, and Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Fitzpatrick also threw no touchdowns and 2 interceptions, but he had a nice running game.
And Dak threw three touchdowns and 2 picks. Cam and Matt Ryan both threw a pick. Kirk Cousins is not afraid of throwing picks. So if you're in a league that penalizes for significantly for interceptions, I might lean Minshew.
I'm going to stick with Minshew. I'm going to make a decision. I'm going with Minshew.
I'm going Kirk Cousins. I love the Vikings this week. I already bet the team total over. I think he has a monster 300-yard game, 2 to 3 touchdowns. Maybe Dalvin, gets a screen pass, scores a touchdown. I'm not really sure, but I think he has a big one. Mo Alley Cox or Austin Hooper this week at tight end?
I'm going to go Mo Alley Cox. I know that there's 3 guys back there, but Mo Alley Cox caught another touchdown last week. He's a huge target in the red zone and somebody that nobody else on the team can offer for Phillip Rivers. I think this game is really ugly for the majority of the game. I don't think Austin Hooper is going to be able to do much, even without the Colts linebackers being healthy. I do, however, still think that Mo Alley Cox offers a better touchdown opportunity than what Hooper does.
Yeah, so right now the Colts defense is allowing the least amount of fantasy points to opposing tight ends. I'm not sure. Have we got an update on Darius Leonard? I think he's out this week.
Oh yeah,
which is not great for their defense, but yeah, I think Mo Alley Cox is the guy. Especially if you're just looking for a touchdown, like Mo Alley isn't a huge weapon right now between the 20s, but even with the other guys, even with Trey Burton was back last week and getting a lot more work than we probably wanted to see. Jack Doyle's still there, but Mo Alley Cox, he's a guy that they're continuing to find ways to get him involved, and I think has the better chance at getting a touchdown. So if you need a touchdown this week, I think Mo Alley Cox is the play.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with that.
Cool. All right, Brian, we're almost at the hour mark. If you have any more questions before we hop off, please drop them in the comments now. If you're enjoying what we're doing, make sure you subscribe to the show. It really does do a lot for us. We break down the waiver wire on Monday nights, Tuesday mornings, depending on when it gets posted to YouTube. We're also on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, so if that works better for you. And without that, I think we're good to go, Brian. So for Brian Twining, I'm Kyle Robert. Good luck in week 5, and
good luck.
We'll talk to you in a couple days to break down the waiver wire. Later.